My dad and his brother weren't exactly the nicest people. Both worked for the same company and traveled together frequently, but I never really knew what their job entailed. What I did discover was how they spent their time away from home, chasing after women. This behavior became apparent when my dad got caught with one 3 years ago. His brother followed suit and got involved with someone last year. We only realized their infidelities after the fact. My mom suspects they had been involved with these women for years before we found out. The situation came to light when a package from one of Dad's affairs was delivered to our home while Dad and I were on vacation. Mom, thinking it might be important, opened it to find pictures of Dad and the woman at an amusement park, some of which showed them kissing. The package also included explicit photos taken with a timer. This discovery led to Mom's divorce after about a year. Then, my aunt found out that my uncle was also involved with someone in the same town, which led to her filing for divorce as well. With her divorce final, my aunt decided to rent a small 2-bedroom house and lease out her current home to boost her income. Mom and I had done the same and found it effective. Between alimony, child support, and the rental income, Mom could work part-time, allowing her to be home when I got back from school. That's how we ended up at my aunt's house, helping her and her 2 daughters prepare for the move. We started on Friday at 4 in the afternoon, packing up their belongings with a brief break for dinner. After working until about 11:30 p.m., we resumed early the next morning. Mom and Aunt Claire were relentless, pushing us through the day. Isn't there a law against child labor? After all, I was only 9, and my cousins were 10 and 7. By around 9 that evening, we had packed up all the household items, leaving only personal belongings like clothes and toys. We took a break to watch some rented movies and relax until about 11 p.m. before heading to bed. On Sunday, we began after breakfast, focusing on packing Ella's room first. Mom and Aunt Claire thought it would be more efficient to tackle one room at a time, starting with Ella's since she was the oldest. Ella, Aunt Claire said, you won't have a closet big enough for all these clothes in the new house. You'll need to donate the ones you don't wear to Goodwill or somewhere similar. I know, Mom, Ella replied. I was saving them for Zoe. I kept the ones she really liked. I understand, dear, but Zoe won't be able to wear them for years, and they might be out of style by then. Ella began sorting through her dresses, holding up one with a nostalgic smile. It was a soft lilac color, a light pinkish purple. Isn't this beautiful? She said, showing it to me. I really like this dress, but it's too small now. Yeah, I replied. I hadn't really thought about it before, but seeing the dress now, I could see it was quite nice. I remembered seeing Ella wear it, and it looked great on her. Yeah, it really is pretty, I said, smiling at the memory. I recalled how lightweight the dress was, enough that I could see through it. Ella smiled up at me, clearly reminiscing about wearing it. She tilted her head slightly and said, It's too bad you're not a girl. This dress would look great on you. My jaw dropped in surprise. Mom smirked while Zoe burst into a wide grin and giggled. I mean, the color would suit you well. We're nearly the same skin tone and hair color, and it's your size. Look, Ella said, holding the dress up to me. You know, Alex, Mom chimed in, Ella has a point. The color would suit you, and it fits you. She teased. You should try it on, Zoe squealed, laughing. I glanced around, Aunt Claire was grinning widely, Mom was trying to suppress her laughter with her hand over her mouth, and Zoe looked like she might burst from excitement. I turned to Ella. You should, Ella said. I think you'd look really good in it, unless you're too scared. Pock, pocock, Zoe clucked, flapping her arms like a chicken. I looked to Mom for support. Don't look at me. If you're scared, you'll have to deal with it on your own, she said with a giggle. I turned to Aunt Claire. If Mom isn't going to help, why would you? You're scared, aren't you? Ella asked. I am not. Are you going to try it on then? Just because I don't want to try it on doesn't mean I'm scared. Well, if you don't, you'll be considered scared. Pocock, Zoe repeated. Ella smirked. It's fine, I expected you'd be scared. I've worn boys' clothes before, but we all know girls are braver than boys. No, they're not. Then prove it, Ella challenged, holding out the dress. It was a standoff. I looked at Mom. She shrugged, raised an eyebrow, and gave a slight nod. I looked back at Ella, who stared back with a cold, unwavering gaze. I turned to Mom again, she remained neutral. Finally, I grabbed the dress and headed for the bathroom. Wait, Ella called after me. You'll need this. She pulled a slip from her drawer. From experience, I know the dress is so thin that it's see-through with light behind it. I took the slip, surprised by how soft it felt. Ella added, and, if you want it to fit properly, you'll need this, and draped a padded training bra over my arm. I gulped and glanced at Mom, who was still grinning with Aunt Claire. I turned back to Ella, who then added a pair of nylon panties on top of the bra. My heart raced. I had never touched panties before, and now I was being asked to wear them. My face flushed with embarrassment. I couldn't look at anyone as I retreated to the bathroom. Once the door was closed, I laid the items on the counter and began to think. What have I gotten myself into? I wondered. How did I end up here? I saw no way out. If I backed out now, I'd face endless teasing. It would be better to put on the clothes than deal with weeks or even years of ridicule for not following through. I cracked the bathroom door open slightly. I didn't want to look at anyone. If I do this, you all swear you'll never tell anyone, I said firmly. I swear, Alex, Ella assured me. Me neither, Zoe agreed. There was a brief pause. Mom, Aunt Claire? I asked. I won't tell anyone, Aunt Claire assured me. Sweetie, you know I won't tell anyone, Mom added. I closed the door and looked at the clothes. Slowly, I undressed, leaving my boxers for last before letting them fall to the floor. With trembling hands, I picked up the panties. They felt incredibly soft and silky. It took a moment to figure out which side was the front and which was the back. Eventually, I decided the larger side must be the back and slid them up my legs. The sensation was startlingly exhilarating. I hadn't realized clothing could feel like this. My heart raced and my breathing became quick and shallow. Next, I picked up the bra. How do these things work? I wondered. Having seen them through blouses before, I had a general idea of where things should go. I put the straps over my shoulders and struggled with the fastener behind my back. No amount of stretching or effort would get the hooks to clasp. Frustrated, I took the bra off and fastened it in front where I could see. I twisted it around, hooked it, and slipped my arms under the straps. It felt a bit high, so I adjusted it so the cups were centered over my pointers. It was more comfortable that way. I pulled the slip over my head, and the sensation of it against my skin was electrifying. I couldn't help but run my hands down my sides, over my hips. The feeling where the slip met the panties was thrilling. I ran my hands over my back. I never knew clothes could feel this good. I then pulled the dress over my head and smoothed it out. I wanted to see how I looked, so I turned toward the mirror. I was disappointed. I looked like a boy in a dress. I had hoped I would look more like a girl. My hair was flat and unkempt, and my face had some dark smudges. Are you all right in there? Mom's voice came through the door, startling me. Yeah, I'm fine, I called back. Do you need any help? No, I've got everything on. Well, are you going to come out? You know no one will believe you put them on if we don't get to see you. Yeah, I'll be right out. I took a wash rag and dampened it to remove the smudges. I approached the door, hand trembling on the knob. I tried to turn it but couldn't. I took my hand away and steadied it before forcing myself to turn the knob and pull. I stepped into the room with a flushed face. Mom was right there, smiling at me. Without warning, she swept me into a hug. "Well, you did it, didn't you? I made everyone wait in Ella's room. If you want, you can change back, and I'll tell them you did it." I shook my head. "No, I've come this far. Besides, if I don't let them see me, they'll just say I was scared." "Well, I suppose you're right," Mom said, smiling. We walked into Ella's room together. She looked up with mild surprise and grinned. Zoe clapped her hands and jumped up and down. Aunt Claire gave a broad grin and a silent laugh. "I was right, you look great in that dress," Ella said. "No, I don't. I look like a boy in a dress. My hair's all wrong, and everything looks silly." "Here, sweetheart," Mom said, pulling a hairbrush from her purse. "Let me do something about that." She began brushing my hair. It would be easier if it had been washed and blow-dried. Aunt Claire spoke up. "You're right, but I can fix that." She took my hand and led me toward the kitchen. "Ella, get my shampoo and conditioner from my bathroom." In the kitchen, Aunt Claire bent me over the sink and started soaking my hair with the sprayer. "Zoe, bring me 2 big towels from the main bathroom," she called out. Before I knew it, Aunt Claire had draped a towel around my shoulders to protect the dress and was lathering up my hair. She quickly rinsed it and told me I wasn't finished yet. "You need another lathering and some conditioner." I bent over again, feeling the thick lather on my head. It was so rich it felt heavy. Aunt Claire worked it deep into my scalp. Despite the awkward position, having someone else wash my hair was surprisingly pleasant. After rinsing out the lather, she applied and worked in the conditioner thoroughly. "You can stand up for a bit if you'd like," she said. I took the opportunity to stand, holding the towel around my neck. Zoe and Ella stood nearby, grinning broadly, while Mom sat at the kitchen table with a smile. "Ella, go get the blow dryer," Aunt Claire instructed. Ella hurried off, and Aunt Claire glanced at her watch. "All right, bend over again," she said. I bent over the sink once more as she rinsed out the conditioner. When I stood up, Aunt Claire wrapped the towel around my shoulders and gently dried my hair. "Sit over there by your mother," she directed. I complied, and she brushed my hair gently. "Linda, do you want to finish up what you started in the bedroom?" Aunt Claire asked. "Sure," Mom replied, rising to plug in the blow dryer and starting on my hair. The warm air felt soothing against my scalp. She brushed and lifted my hair, blowing it dry from underneath. I closed my eyes and enjoyed the pampering. I'll never admit it, but this feels amazing, I thought. Mom then grabbed a comb and began working on my hair, a process she called backcombing or teasing. She finished with some hairspray, which must have been borrowed from one of the girls. My hair, though not very long, was now fluffed up enough to cover my ears. After what felt like an eternity, Mom said, "Ta-da! All done." I opened my eyes to see Zoe whispering to Ella. When they noticed me looking, they just grinned. "You need a little touch," Aunt Claire said, taking my chin and applying a few quick strokes of lipstick. "Do this," she instructed, rubbing her lips together. The lipstick had a flavor that matched its scent. "Come on," Ella said, taking my hand. "Let's go into my room so you can see yourself in the full-length mirror." In her room, I looked at myself in the mirror. The resemblance to a girl was uncanny. Anyone who knew me would think the person in the mirror was related to me. Although I wasn't the most glamorous girl, I definitely looked feminine. My hair, which I usually just smoothed and combed back, was now fluffed up and nearly covered my ears. I hadn't realized it was so long or so voluminous. "Here," Ella said, handing me knee socks and slip-on sandals. I sat on her bed, still in front of the mirror, and watched as I put on the socks and shoes. Mom, Aunt Claire, and Zoe were also in the room. "Well, it looks like I have a daughter after all," Mom said. "You really look great in that dress, Alex," Aunt Claire added. Not Alex, Mom. In that dress, he's got to be Emily, Zoe said. Everyone laughed, and I couldn't help but chuckle too. I looked back at the mirror and thought, I do look good in it. Turning sideways, I watched the dress swirl slightly and felt it swish against my legs. It was kind of fun. I understood why girls enjoyed dressing up. It was much more enjoyable than slacks and a dress shirt with a tie. You know, all these clothes I'm getting rid of would fit you, Ella said. Want to try them on and see how they look? Okay, I shrugged. For the next hour and a half, I tried on about 24 outfits, dresses, skirts, and blouses in various combinations. I'd never had so much fun with clothes before. Each outfit was carefully packed into a plastic bag once I was done with it. I ended up in a sundress, which was incredibly light and airy. It floated effortlessly as I walked. By lunchtime, everyone insisted I keep the dress on while we ate, so I did. After lunch, we moved to Ella's room. Ella packed up the remaining clothes into a suitcase while the rest of us gathered her dolls and stuffed animals. We then tackled Zoe's room. With 4 of us working, it only took about an hour. Aunt Claire's room was nearly finished, with just a few small items left, which didn't take long. We packed up the bathrooms quickly. When we reached the main bathroom, Zoe pointed out my boxers on the floor and said to Ella, "See, I told you so." "SHH." Ella replied. I blushed as Mom picked up the boxers and took them along with my other clothes to the guest room where I had stayed. We stripped all the beds, washed the sheets, and packed away the bedding. We finished around 4 in the afternoon. Throughout the day, I stayed in the sundress, marveling at how comfortable and pleasant it felt. We all collapsed on the couches in the family room, enjoying the chance to relax after 2 days of constant work. Even the brief interlude in Ella's room before lunch had involved some effort, as we had to bag up the clothes when I changed. Well, Aunt Claire said, the movers will be here in the morning to take everything to our new home. We'll spend one night in a motel, and while you girls are in school, the movers and I will set up the house. I'm hungry, Zoe said. Me too, Aunt Claire agreed. She picked up the phone and ordered from Pizza Hut. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang, and we had pizza. Around 6, Mom said, "Well, Emily, it's time for you to switch back to Alex. We have over an hour's drive to get home." Okay, I replied, finally aware of the unusual clothes I was wearing. I went to the guest room and changed back. Reluctantly, I left the panties on under my boxers. They felt too good to remove. I found the Goodwill bag in the front hall and stuffed the sundress and lingerie into it. In the bathroom, I wiped off the light pink lipstick and brushed my stiff, fluffy hair back down. I'd need to wash it tonight to remove the stiffness. When I finished, it looked decent, but not quite how I preferred it. We put on our jackets, ready to leave. Oh! Aunt Claire suddenly remembered, I forgot about the donation items. It's so late, and I'm eager to get to the motel and shower. Linda, could you drop them off at Goodwill? There's one just half a mile from your house. It would be a huge help. Oh sure, Claire, no problem, Mom said. Outside, we exchanged hugs. Ella couldn't resist teasing, "Bye, Emily." I just shook my head as Mom chuckled. I'm taking tomorrow off, so I'll see you around 9 at your new house, Mom told Aunt Claire. It shouldn't take long. The movers said they'd arrive at 7 and be at the new place by 9. They'll have everything unloaded by 11, so we should have it all set up by about 3 o'clock. That should give you time to get home and make dinner as usual. It should, Mom agreed, climbing into our car. On the way home, Mom was deep in thought and grinning to herself. I didn't think too much of it. I was looking out the window thinking about my day in dresses. How many different outfits had I tried on? I don't know. Ha! Imagine, there I was stripping down to girls' lingerie right in front of my mom and aunt and 2 girl cousins. Now there's something no other boy has done. You know, Mom said, shaking me from my thoughts. You did look awfully good in some of those dress. Too bad I didn't have a camera. A camera? I asked. You mean you'd have taken pictures? Well, yeah. Why? Oh, just to remember my daughter I never had. Well, you couldn't show them to anyone. You promised you'd never tell anyone I did that. I know, but I'd still like to have had pictures. Besides, I could show them to your Aunt Claire and the girls. They were there to see them in the flesh. She paused. How did you feel, all dressed up like that? I don't know, kinda funny at first. At first? What about later? I mean, after you got all done trying things on and were just wearing the sundress the rest of the day? Well, okay, I guess. It was comfortable and it felt kinda good even. Kind of good? Good, how? Well, I just got used to it. Actually, I thought that today was better than Saturday. My jeans were hot to work in, compared to the dress, and the dress didn't bind or anything. Well, I still wish I'd have had a camera. Would you have minded if I took some pictures? I guess not. I mean, if you promised not to show them around. Oh, I would promise. I've got an idea. Since you wouldn't have minded if I had taken pictures and I really want to have some, we could keep Ella's old clothes for a while. That is, if you would wear them again, just so I could take some pictures. I don't know, Mom. It was okay today, but I don't think I want to spend a couple of hours changing clothes and posing for pictures. I mean, that'd blow the better part of a day when you add in the time to take pictures. Well, you wouldn't have to do it all at once. You could just put on one outfit every day after school and pose for pictures until you have worn them all. Just one a day? Sure, that way, you don't have to devote a big block of time and I'll get the pictures I want. She smiled. I thought about it. I love my mom. It's not like she's asking a lot or that I've never worn the clothes before. And besides, I did kinda like wearing them. I was still wearing the panties, wasn't I? When else would I get another excuse to do it? Okay, but you have to promise that you won't tell anyone I did it or show the pictures to anyone but Aunt Claire, Ella, or Zoe. I promise. Mom smiled. We drove past the Goodwill store without stopping. Once home, I headed straight for the shower. After I was done, I found Mom in my room, hanging Ella's old clothes in my closet. You don't use much of the hanging space in your closet, she said. We'll keep them here so the wrinkles can fall out. I sat on the bed in my robe while she worked. There we go, she said, stepping back. A closet full of girls' dresses. It was a bit of a dream for me, but after divorcing your father, I thought I'd never get to see it. Her expression turned wistful. After she left the room, I stood and looked in my closet. Ella's clothes had invaded. It was like looking into a girl's closet. Dresses, skirts, blouses and sweaters as far as the eye could see. And on the floor, there were 4 pairs of shoes. I opened my drawer and found that my closet was the only space taken over by Ella's old clothes. There was lingerie, lots of it. 7 or 8 panties, 3 bras and 2 full slips and a half slip. There were some socks even. After a bit of hesitation, I put on a pair of panties. I quickly covered them with a pair of shorts that Mom always said were gross because the legs were loose and you could sometimes see my boxers when I sat down. Not a problem with panties, I thought. Throwing on a t-shirt, I headed for the living room to watch some TV. At 10 o'clock, Mom reminded me I had school tomorrow. I headed for bed. I stripped, stopping short of taking off the panties, and opened the drawer with my PJs in it. Ella's clothes had invaded in there as well. There were 3 nighties and a pair of girls' satin pajamas. What's with the nighties? She doesn't think she's going to pose for pictures in nighties, does she? Oh well. I put on a pair of my PJs. After breakfast, I got ready for school. I decided to loose the panties for school. After all, a guy has to be a guy. Much to my chagrin, I missed the panties. Boxers just didn't seem to cut it anymore. Maybe I'd have to switch to jockeys. School was pretty much the same as always. Mom was home when I got home. What was missing was the smell of dinner. "Hi, Alex," she said as I came in. I just got home myself. I stopped at Target on the way home. I needed to pick up some film and other things. "Are you ready for the transformation?" "Huh?" "You know, for the pictures." "Oh yeah. I guess so. Why don't you go in and put on that first dress you wore yesterday? We'll start with that one." "Okay." I headed for my room. "Oh, Alex," she called after me. "There are some tights in your drawer. I think that dress would look much better with tights than socks. Just put everything on as usual and call me and I'll help you with the tights." "Tights?" I got to my room and opened my underwear drawer, and sure enough, there on top of everything was a cellophane package. "Silky opaque tights," it said. Oh, well. I stripped and gladly put on the panties I had worn to bed. I didn't want Mom to know I had worn them last night. It was bad enough that I had to hide the ones I wore home yesterday. When I was ready, I called her, "Mom, I'm ready." She came and smiled at me as she opened the tights. "Sit on the bed and I'll help you." I sat. She did something with one leg of the tights, drawing it up in kind of a bunch with only an inch or so of the toe left dangling. "Lift your foot," she commanded as she knelt in front of me. "Not that one, silly, the other one." Like I should know which one went on first. She put it over my toes and then slid it up to my calf. "Now the other one." She did a repeat performance on that leg. "Now stand up." I did. One at a time, she pulled them up above my knees. "Okay, you pull them up, like I did. Just a little at a time on each side until they're up to your waist." I pulled them up, awed by the feel of them against my legs. I thought the slip felt great, but the tights were rapturous. As my dress and slip floated back down, I was spirited away for a moment. I don't know where I went, or who I was while I was there, but everything was ethereal, as if I had been transported to another plane. "Let's get your hair sorted," Mom said, pulling me out of my daydream. Okay. In the bathroom, Mom dampened my hair and worked her curling iron and brush with practiced ease. When she was done, my hair was transformed into something distinctly feminine. She applied lipstick and even added some blush. "You know, considering how often you'll be doing this, I should teach you to do it yourself." "How often will I need to do it?" "Probably a couple dozen times, at least. Since you're planning to wear one outfit a day." "How difficult is it?" "Not very, once you get the hang of teasing your hair. The makeup is simple too, lipstick is optional at your age, and applying it is easy. Here's the plan: tonight after dinner, I'll let you practice teasing my hair. Who knows, you might even discover a new talent." "A career?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes, a lot of men work as hairdressers." "Great." With my hair and makeup finished, Mom took me out to the patio for a few photos and then snapped a couple more inside. "That's enough for now. We'll get more tomorrow with a different outfit." "Okay, I'll go change." "Actually, why not keep it on? It took a lot of work to create the look, so it seems a shame to take it off so soon." "Well, it does feel kind of nice." "I'll keep it on." "I need to use the bathroom," I said. "Don't forget to sit down. Just pull your tights down over your bottom, peel them inside out until your panties are fully exposed, and then pull them down. It'll be easier to get them back up that way." That was more detail than I wanted, but I tried it, and it worked. I guessed it was useful information for the days ahead. I finished up and headed back to the living room, wondering about dinner. As I walked in, I froze. The door was open, and Mom was accepting a package from the local pizza delivery guy. He glanced up, smiled, and nodded. Mom handed him a 20. "Keep the change," she said. "Thanks, have a nice evening," he replied, giving me one more smile before leaving. Mom closed the door behind him. I didn't think he'd want pizza again, so I had him bring 2 chicken dinners and a 2-liter of Dr. Pepper. "Mom, why didn't you give me a heads up?" "Give you a heads up? You like their chicken. You said it's almost as good as mine." "No, I meant about him coming. I could have stayed out of sight." He looked at me twice. "What?" "Oh, don't worry. He probably just thought you were a preteen girl. He was probably wondering how you'd look in a few years." "No, he thought I was some kind of fool for dressing up like a girl." "What did he do when he looked at you?" He smiled. He didn't laugh or grin like he was trying to hold back laughter. No, he just smiled, kind of friendly. Then, believe me, he's just a teenage guy. He was probably wishing you were a few years older so he could make a move on you. Oh God. That's what he was thinking? I suddenly felt sick. "Come on, let's eat the chicken before it gets cold." I followed Mom into the kitchen and we sat down at the table. I barely touched my food, my mind fixated on the pizza delivery guy's smile. It took almost an hour, but I finally finished my dinner. Afterward, I tackled my homework while Mom got out her comb and brush, showing me how to work with her hair. Teasing wasn't as easy as it seemed. I'd get it right, only for it to fall flat when I tried to style it differently. After a few attempts, she suggested spraying it lightly with hairspray before shaping it. That helped a bit, though she still made it look effortless. When I complained, she reassured me that practice would make perfect. By 9:30, we wrapped up. "You'd better take a shower before bed. Otherwise, your hair will look like you stuck your finger in a light socket come morning." I headed for the bathroom. "Remember to put your underpants in the hamper. Your bra and slip can be worn again, but you'll want fresh panties for tomorrow. And hang up your dress." How odd is that? Not many mothers tell their sons these things. That night, I decided to try out the nighties. I slipped on the blue baby doll to sleep. The next day after school, things felt more normal. The aroma of a roast in the oven greeted me as I walked in, a reassuring sign. "Dinner will be ready in about an hour, hon, why don't you get changed? We should take the pictures while there's still good light." I went to my room and was surprised to find some clothes laid out for me. It was the blue sleeveless shift, which seemed a bit dressy. The slip was lacy, the bra more padded, and the panties were also lacy and silky. Next to them was a pair of nylons labeled little legs. Mom had gotten me nylons instead of tights. The shoes were black flats and looked brand new. Apparently, Ella didn't have many occasions for dressy shoes. I changed into the panties and nylons, then put on the bra and slip. The sensation was thrilling. I might regret it when the photo session ends. A guy could get used to this. Whoa, what a weird thought. This is something a girl should get used to, not a guy. I slipped the dress over my head but struggled with the zipper. Ella zipped this for me on Sunday. I'll just leave the zipper undone and have Mom help me. How many zippers have I zipped for her? Quite a few, I recalled, especially with Dad being on the road. I'd started helping her as soon as I figured out how zippers worked, even standing on a chair to do it. In the bathroom, I worked on my hair. It wasn't quite as good as Mom's, but it was passable. I found her lipstick and blush on the counter, likely left out for me. I dabbed the blush on my cheeks, remembering her advice, less is more. A bit of lipstick, and I was almost ready, except for the zipper. "Mom, can you zip me up?" I asked, turning around. "Of course, honey," she replied, zipping up the dress. "There you go. Dinner's ready, let's eat." After dinner, Mom took out the camera and snapped a few shots, 3 outside and 3 inside. I posed on the back porch and in the yard, though I felt uneasy about being out there. Our yard wasn't exactly private. Mrs. Larson lived next door, and the Alexsons lived on the other side. Mom reassured me that the Alexsons wouldn't be home until late and Mrs. Larson had poor eyesight. If she saw me, she'd likely just think I was a girl. "You'd better get started on your homework," Mom said as she put away the camera. "You can change later." I worked on my homework until about 8:30, caught an hour of TV, and went to bed, opting for the baby doll nightie again. The week followed the same routine. Each evening after school, I'd change into an outfit Mom had picked out, we'd have dinner, take pictures, I'd do my homework, and then head to bed. Each night, I wore a different nightie. On Friday, Mom suggested that I get dressed as soon as I woke up so we could take the pictures early. So, first thing in the morning, I put on the sundress I had worn the previous Sunday. "Hi Emily," Mom greeted me as usual. "Want to help with breakfast?" she asked as I entered the kitchen. "Sure, what's on the menu?" "How about scrambled eggs and ham?" "Sounds good." "Great. You whip the eggs, and I'll chop the ham." I took 6 eggs from the fridge, cracked them into a bowl, and whipped them until they were lemon yellow, just like Mom had taught me. I added a splash of milk for each egg and whipped them again. By the time I was done, Mom had chopped the ham into pieces. I got a skillet out for her and set the table. While she scrambled the eggs, I started on the toast. Before long, we were sitting down to a delicious breakfast. I enjoyed helping out, it made the meal taste even better. After cleaning up, it was time for pictures. The Alexsons will be home today. "How about we take the outdoor pictures somewhere else?" Mom suggested. "Where?" I was thinking we could go down by the river, where the houseboats used to be. The playground equipment is still there. I'm not sure. I don't want to be seen. You can get in the car while the garage door is still closed. I'll open it and back the car out. I don't think the Alexsons will notice since they're likely not near the front of the house. I was nervous but also excited about the idea. Seeing how good I could look and becoming comfortable in dresses had made the idea of going out like this seem appealing. The excitement seemed to outweigh the fear. "If you're sure I won't be seen." "I'm sure." "Okay, we'll go straight there and back." "Of course, no unnecessary side trips," she teased. So, that's how I ended up in the car, heading across town. The houseboats had been moved due to commercial traffic, but the playground equipment was still intact, set in concrete. Mom and I knew about it from someone she used to work with. When we arrived at the parking lot, it felt a bit desolate, but it was perfect for our photo shoot. I posed on all the playground equipment, on the slide, the swing, and Mom even took a picture of me on the teeter-totter while she was on the other end. We walked along the river, and Mom snapped more photos with the river in the background and me leaning against a tree. She took more pictures than usual. On the way home, we got a flat tire. With no other choice, we limped into a service station near a shopping center. "Mom, what am I going to do?" "I'm worried that if I just stand here, someone might figure out I'm not a girl." "Let me talk to them and see what we can do." She got out and spoke to the station manager. A few minutes later, she returned to the car. "It's going to be about an hour before they can even start on it." The manager suggested we take a trip to the mall cinema. "To the mall?" "Yes. We can either stay here and be the center of attention or go to the mall, where people will be preoccupied with other things and won't notice us as much." "Well, okay. At least if we go to the movies, it'll be dark." My heart raced as I got out of the car. I felt like my chest was trembling with each beat. Mom smiled and took my elbow, and we walked to the corner, crossed the street, and entered the mall. I scanned the crowd anxiously, afraid someone would notice something unusual. To my relief, everyone seemed too absorbed in their own activities to pay much attention to us. The line at the box office was short, but I was still nervous being so close to other people. There was a mother and her young daughter in the other line, and the mother kept glancing at me. She knows. I'm sure she knows, I thought, reading her eyes. Mom bought the tickets, and we went inside. Even though the woman said nothing, I felt she saw something that made me stand out as a boy in a dress. While Mom got popcorn and drinks, I waited in a quiet spot. We ended up watching A Bug's Life. It wasn't a movie I would have picked, but it turned out to be enjoyable, better than some I've seen. After the movie, we headed back to the service station when my stomach growled loudly. Mom heard it. We missed lunch, didn't we? I checked the time, it was 1:30. We usually ate lunch by 12:30 on Saturdays. Yeah, I'm starving. When we returned to the station, the car was still on the rack. The mechanic came out to talk to Mom while I hung back a bit. Ma'am, bad news. Your rim isn't in good enough shape for a new tire. It'll need to be replaced. I can put your spare on, but it's a compact spare that will make your car handle oddly, or I can get a new rim here in about 45 minutes. Either way, you need to address it before you drive too far. Without looking at me, Mom made her decision. If it needs to be replaced, we might as well do it now. We were thinking of lunch anyway. She turned to me. I see a Sherry's across the parking lot. Let's go get something to eat. She turned and walked past me, and I followed, feeling utterly dismayed. Mom, I caught up with her, I can't go into a restaurant dressed like this. I hissed. Why not? You look like any other 9-year-old girl. But I'm not a girl. I just look like one. If you don't tell anyone, they won't know. But what if someone figures it out? What if I do something that gives it away? Then you'll just have to be careful. Look, I know what you like, so I'll order for you. Just sit there, look pretty, eat slowly, and I'll handle the rest. But... Look, our other option is to stand around the service station for 45 minutes. It'll be fine, you'll see. We went inside, and just as I feared, there were already people waiting for a table. I stood nervously beside Mom as she gave her name, and we settled onto the small bench by the door. I tried to blend in, my knees pressed tightly together, causing the color to drain from them. I avoided making eye contact with anyone. While we waited, another family arrived with 2 young girls. They took the bench opposite us, but there wasn't enough room, so they asked the older girl, who looked about 6, to sit next to me. She climbed up and smiled up at me. My name is Sally. What's yours? She asked in a friendly tone that was hard to ignore. Joe, J. Emily, I stammered, sounding like I had a speech impediment. I'm 6, she said proudly. How old are you? The little chatterbox was making conversation. Didn't her parents teach her not to talk to strangers? I took a deep breath to calm myself. 9, I managed, almost sounding normal. School's almost over this year. I'm going to be in 1st grade next year. That's nice, I said, trying to sound polite. I could hear Mom smirking softly. I glanced at her, and she looked away, suddenly interested in something outside the distant window. I go to King School. What school do you go to? Sally continued with her questions. Do all little kids talk this much? I wondered. I go to Jackson, I said, making a real effort to keep my voice steady. You're pretty, she said. That caught me off guard. For the first time, I really looked at her. She was adorable and wearing the sweetest dress. Darling? Now there's a word I never thought I'd use. You're pretty too, and I like your dress, I replied, trying to return the compliment. I like yours too. Oh boy, now I'm leading the conversation. I felt awkward. I didn't want to ignore her after we had started talking, but I wasn't sure how to continue the conversation. Linda, Party of two, a well-dressed woman announced, and Mom stood up with a sigh of relief. Bye, Sally said. Bye. The hostess led us to a table and asked if Mom wanted any coffee. She did. I shook my head when asked if I wanted anything right then. You handled yourself very well back there, Mom said with a smile. Why was she so talkative? I asked. Some little girls are just naturally friendly. Mom, this is really scary. I felt like I was going to die when that little girl started talking to me. Well, relax. You're doing fine. Let's order. Mom picked up a menu and began looking through it. I picked up mine, but I wasn't sure I'd be able to eat. My stomach was in knots. Mom ordered me soup and half a sandwich with raspberry iced tea while she chose a Cobb salad. We spent about an hour there. As we were getting ready to leave, disaster struck. I needed to use the bathroom. Mom, what do I do? I have to go. I need to powder my nose before we leave too. Mom stopped to pay the bill and then, taking my elbow, guided me straight into the women's restroom. It felt like a dream. My mother was taking me into the women's room. What if someone is in there? My mind raced. Before I could react, we were inside. It wasn't what I expected. It looked like any other restroom, only a bit larger, with a baby changing station on one wall and 2 stalls, but no urinal. Mom pointed to a stall and said softly, "Sit." I went in, hiked up my dress, and pulled down my tights and panties. Just as I was beginning to relieve myself, to my horror, I realized my mom, my own mom, is in the stall next to me. I didn't want to think about what she was doing. I finished up before Mom did, so I was at the sink washing my hands when she came out. She washed hers as well, and I thought we'd be leaving, but Mom had other plans. She retrieved her lipstick and the light lipstick she'd used on me from her purse. Gently holding my chin, she reapplied the lipstick to my lips. You should always touch up your lipstick after eating, she said, turning her attention to her own lips. Just then, an elderly woman entered, glanced at us, nodded, and went into a stall. At last, we made it to the relative safety of the parking lot. Seeing our car parked alongside was a relief. I was half afraid something else would go wrong, making us spend even more time with me out in public dressed as a girl. I'm never wearing a dress outside again, I declared. Once back in the car, we were finally heading home. My body felt tingly, and I was a bit lightheaded. I started to giggle softly. What's so funny? Mom asked. I don't know. I just feel like giggling, I said with a smile. It's over. We're finally going home. I can breathe again. Too much excitement? Yeah, sort of. I'm just glad it's over. It is over, right? As soon as we get home, she reassured me. We were only a few blocks from home. Mom pulled into the driveway and got out to open the garage. I waited until she closed the door before we went inside. Well, you've had quite an adventure today, she said. I nodded. Looking back, what did you think of it? Well, from the flat tire to getting back in the car, I was scared to death. What about during the movie? Oh, I guess I kind of forgot about it then. What was the scariest part of the day? I'm not sure. It was either when that little girl wouldn't stop talking to me or when we went into the ladies' room. To my surprise, I was smiling as I said this, like I was recounting a great vacation. Well, she said, despite all your fear, nothing bad happened, did it? No, I guess not. Looking at you now, I think you had a good time. Kind of like riding a roller coaster, scary but fun. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Every time I thought there couldn't be anything scarier, something else came up. I smiled. Why don't you relax and watch some TV? I've got some work to do in the kitchen. I did just that. I didn't change clothes, I sat on the couch and watched TV. When dinner time came, I was still Emily. I helped set the table and clean up afterward. After dinner, I did some reading. At bedtime, I opted for a long nightie. As I lay in bed, I wondered about sleeping in nightgowns. I understood why I was wearing dresses. Mom wanted pictures, but why sleep in nightgowns? Mom didn't even know I was wearing them, and I wasn't sure I wanted her to. In the morning, as soon as I woke up, I quickly stripped out of my nightgown. After putting on my robe, I headed for the shower. Since I had to wash my hair every morning, I decided to use Mom's shampoo and conditioner instead of the ivory soap I usually used. Mom once told me that she used the special shampoo and conditioner because washing her hair daily required extra protection. When I returned to my room, I found that Mom had laid out my outfit for the day. It included a white sleeveless shell in a fine cable knit and something new, a skirt. I hadn't worn a skirt at Aunt Claire's. Mom must have thought it would be nice to get a picture of me in it. The skirt was essentially a pair of shorts with a panel of fabric in the front and back, giving it the appearance of a miniskirt with slits up to the hips. The shorts underneath made it clear that it wasn't indecent. She also laid out some anklets, a pair of keds, and of course, panties and a bra. Dressed and ready, I joined Mom in the kitchen for breakfast. After cleaning up, she brought up the topic of taking pictures again. "You know," she said, "we still have the same issue with the neighbors today as we did yesterday." "Yeah, I know," I replied nervously. "Do you think you can handle another outing like yesterday?" "I'm not sure." With the flat tire and ruined rim, I got way more exposure than I wanted, I admitted, feeling a mix of excitement as I recalled yesterday's events. "Well, it's unlikely we'll have another flat tire." "Where would we go?" I asked. "That's the challenge." I was thinking we could pack a picnic lunch and head to the beach. It's only an hour and a half drive to that little beach I like, the one south of Depot Bay that almost no one knows about. Yeah, I remember that beach. We found it one summer when everywhere else was overcrowded. You had to really look to see it from the highway, and getting down to it was a bit of a trek. But it's a nice beach, perfect for swimming or wading. What do you think? Would you feel safe there? Yeah, that should be fine. Mom and I quickly packed a lunch. She boiled some eggs and made egg salad sandwiches while I prepared the cooler with blue ice. We ended up with a pretty decent lunch. I'll run into that little store on the highway for some cold drinks. You can wait in the car, she said. An hour later, we were on our way. I couldn't believe I was going out again, dressed as a girl. Am I crazy? Didn't I just swear yesterday that I'd never go out in a dress again? Mom parked in the small lot, thankfully at the far end of the building. If anyone came while she was in the store, they'd likely park closer to the entrance. It felt like an eternity before she returned. 3 cars passed by, and one even stopped, but no one seemed to notice us. She put the drinks in the cooler, and we were on our way again. As we drove, I felt a mix of excitement and fear when that car had pulled in. There was something about the risk of being caught that intrigued me. What is it? Why would I want to be caught? I didn't really want to be caught, I just enjoyed the thrill of the possibility. Mom pulled out and continued down the road. I found myself looking forward to walking on the beach, feeling less frightened than when we took pictures by the river. As Mom turned south onto the coast highway, I knew it wouldn't be long. Depot Bay was just down the road. Before I knew it, we were driving through town, and a few more miles brought us to the beach we were headed for. Mom found a place to park and we got out of the car. This time, there was no apprehension. After all, it wasn't like in town, there weren't many people even likely to drive by or even if they did, notice the beach. And if they noticed, they wouldn't know how to get down there. We only knew because I had insisted on finding a way and Mom had relented because it was a lazy afternoon. We picked our way around the bric-a-brac of rock placed there to prevent erosion and down the steep slope covered by scrub pine. Angling our way, first one way then the other, we soon broke out on the pristine beach. The reason I liked this beach was because there was none of the litter that you see on the popular beaches. With so few people, if any, who knew how to get down here, it just didn't happen. Each time we came, I could imagine that Mom and I were the only white men to have ever walked this particular stretch of sand. We walked the beach for a bit and then Mom began taking pictures. Candid shots at first. She just caught me being natural, doing what I always do at the beach. It was noon already and getting warm, unseasonably warm for early spring.